And once again, my name is Chris McKinney, Education Specialist, coming to you live from Edinburgh. I'm here at Region 1 ESC, this service center, right next to UTRGV. We're just west of campus. And speaking of UTRGV, we have a professor, Dr. Garcia, who's joining us today. He's going to actually take over the seat. And I'm going to let him tell you more about his story and then open it up for questions and answers. If you have not, students, classrooms, figured out the chat feature, please make sure you familiarize yourself and open that up. So it's just like texting. You can text us questions. You also have microphones, whether you know it or not, there at your computer or device that you're transmitting from. And if you want to come up, send a teacher or student up to the front, the laptop, whatever you're using as far as a computer. You can unmute the mic, ask a question, then remute it, or we have capability of muting from our side. So that's a little bit about the ground rules. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Alex Garcia, please.
Okay. We'll trade places.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, see, I'm a little shorter than he is.
Right.
I was like, okay. Well, hello everyone. As mentioned, I'm a professor at the University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley. My classroom is actually in Brownsville, and I also teach an online class. I'm a professor in the Department of Organization and School Leadership. Now, that means basically my students are master's students and doctoral students that are working on their master's degree in education leadership. And long story short, basically that means that they want to become school administrators like principals and coordinators, directors, superintendents, assistant superintendents. And so that's what they are aspiring to become. And I'm deeply honored to have the opportunity to speak with you guys today, this afternoon. I was telling Mr. McKinney that my background is pretty diverse. And that's one thing that I wanted to talk to you about today is being flexible and being diverse in your life. I originally started off when I graduated at high school in 1979. I know by where many of you were born and many of your parents were probably born. But I graduated in 1979 from McAllen High School, and I attended Pan American for about a year and a half. From there, I transferred to Texas Tech University in Lubbock, Texas, and I graduated in 1985 with a degree in architecture, a bachelor's degree in architecture. You know, now, with that said, you're probably thinking to yourself, well, how does a professor in education leadership come from an architectural background? Well, I worked for about 4.5 years as an intern. And so if you're pursuing a professional degree, most programs have what they call an internship. My own daughter, for example, graduated this past year with a degree in psychology, and she's working on her internship to be a chemical dependency counselor. So I graduated in '85 and worked in the industry here in the Valley, and I moved up to Dallas. Came back down, and I found out along the way that it wasn't the career for me. I loved the art and drawing and the design part of it, working with people, but I just didn't like the business end of it. And so one main point that I want to communicate to you today is if you're not happy about your situation, you can do something about it. We all have a lot of strength and power within ourselves. And so I went back to school. And so I went back to school and I started working on my teaching certification. And so I went back to school and became a teacher. And I started off teaching elementary school. And in those 2 short years that I taught 1st grade and 4th grade, I found out that working with the little ones was kind of difficult. And I turned my talents into art to become an art teacher. And I went back to school again to get my certification to teach art. And then further down, I worked on my master's degree. And also at the same time, I was working on a technology background. I turned all this into becoming a trainer of teachers in technology. And then I started working here at the Regional Service Center in the year 2000. And then from there, I started working on my master's I'm sorry, my doctorate in 2004, and then I started teaching at the university in 2013 full time. So I've had in my life, I've had a lot of different types of careers. I've been an architect, I've been an art teacher, I've been an elementary teacher, I've been a technology training specialist, I've been a professor, an adjunct professor, which is a part-time professor, now a full-time professor. I've been a coordinator of instructional technology and library services. So I've been doing a lot of things. The key in all these things that connect this is going back to school and continuing in education. And that's something that I think that's important as youth. I mean, you're never trapped. You're never trapped. There's always an opportunity. There's always a chance to go back to school, whether it's an online education or face-to-face education. There's always opportunities to go back and better yourself. Life is a process of becoming better. I see one of our campuses is coming online. Oh, sorry.
That's all right.
All right. So I'm going to go ahead and let's see if we have some questions or any topics. I've got a bunch of schools. I can see San Benito, and I can see some Brownsville campuses hidden online. And so I can see somebody from Region 1 here. I think that's Miss McCormick. Is that? Hi. So I'm gonna stop for a second, and there you go. I see some kids there. Okay. Yes. Okay. So where are we at? The ones that with the camera. What campus is this? Sierra? Where's this? I don't know if y'all can talk. Veterans. Oh, okay. In Brownsville. Okay. My office is in Brownsville, so I travel to Brownsville every week. I may just be passing by your school one day. So let me see. Does anyone have a question so far?
Well, we just joined, so I don't know.
Okay.
We're going to mute your mic for just a little bit while y'all get settled in, and we'll continue sharing the story. And meanwhile, there is a text feature, so feel free to chat or text a question, and we'll answer either a live question or a chat.
Well, as I continue now, what I do now at the university is I have students who are graduate students, and they're working on their master's degree. And now I'll be teaching fully online, so I might not be traveling so much to Brownsville. And that's another thing that is, I think, a good thing for all of us now is we're not allowing distance to come between you and an education. Now you can use technology, like, I don't know if I've seen the other presentation before, but now you can use technology to get a whole degree online. Before it was very rare for people to get a full degree online, but now it's possible. As a professor, we're required to publish or to write. And one of the latest publications that I wrote was why students find it very useful to have online classes. And so this coming spring, I'll be teaching, my 2 classes will be fully online. And so I'll have the capability of teaching them like I'm doing with you today, working with you remotely. We use what they call Blackboard, and Blackboard's an application, kind of like what this application is, Zoom. I think it's called Zoom. So let me see if there's a question out there. And since I've had a broad background, I know a little bit about engineering and architecture, art, teaching. I definitely have taught from kindergarten all the way to doctoral students. So I've taught different types of classes.
If you have any questions,
Sorry,
Mr. Muller, yeah, he's another Brownsville.
Okay. I see somebody just came aboard right now. Can anyone tell me about them, about their class, what they're interested in studying, or a career that they're looking forward to?
Pharmacy.
Pharmacy.
Introduce yourselves before you ask a question, please. I can't see you, so please give them your name.
Okay.
Yeah, say it out loud. Who said pharmacy? Okay.
My name is Jorge Rodriguez, and I was interested into pharmacy.
Okay. Well, I've known a few people who have majored in pharmacy. In fact, one of my professor that I teach with, he started off in the School of Pharmacy, and he actually worked at a pharmacy while he was going to school. Later on, he changed his career, but I know that a degree in pharmacy, it's really heavy into chemistry. So if you're interested in science, specifically in chemistry, then that's a very good career for you. Pharmacy, there's a great responsibility because, like, for example, I'm diabetic, and I can't just take any medication. There's reactions with different types of medications. So pharmacy is an exciting career, and it's very rewarding because you're helping people. But you have to be on the lookout to see if there's any kind of ill interactions between medications.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
So we ask him about like any field?
Yes.
And yeah, you can pretty much, like I said,
What if I wanted to be a counselor for the school district?
Oh, okay. I'm glad you asked that. My counseling, actually, I work next door to the counseling department. So my office is right next to, and so I work with a bunch of counselors. My sister actually just retired. She was a counselor in the schools. So my own daughter got a degree in psychology, but she didn't want to go into the school system. So if you want to be a counselor, first of all, you have to ask yourself, do you really like working with people? Do you like giving advice? Do you like listening? And so one of the degrees that you would get first before you become a counselor is a degree in psychology. And my daughter, just for example, graduated, and her degree is in psychology. But beyond that, you have to really, to be a high school counselor, or I'm sorry, a school counselor, you need to become a classroom teacher. And so all the state of Texas requires all counselors to be teachers first, to have a teaching certificate, and then work on your master's degree in counseling. And so that's a degree that's going to take a little longer, or a career that takes a little longer, but it's well worth it, because once you get your certification, then you can work in a school. But it is a career that is very interesting.
What architectural firm did you intern at?
Sure.
Did you see that?
Yes.
Okay.
I have a question from Dalton. In 1985, when I graduated from Texas Tech, I started off and interned at Reich and Ogden on North 10th and Walnut in McAllen. And then I worked in Dallas with a gentleman by the name of Dean Ritter. And in 1988, I was working with them, and it was the first time that we were using computers to draw. And we were using a program called AutoCAD. And it automated and speeded up things because we could easily, copy and paste. Now you do in word processor. And so then we had a plotter. And so every week I'd get a disk from Houston, and then I would make the changes and then print it and plot it, make blue lines, and then run off to Love Field, the airport in Dallas, and ship off the plans to wherever the needed to be. So yeah, that's where I was an intern at. So I was intern here in McAllen, and I was an intern in Dallas. Oh, okay. I see a question. Was it tough to teach first and fourth graders? Well, the thing is with me, and that's one thing that I want to make sure that everyone. You have to, in any kind of career, you have to analyze your own strengths. And I think one of my greatest strengths is working with older students, adults specifically. And it was very hard for me to relate to the little kids. And the fourth graders, that was my first year as a teacher. Behavior management was like wow. I was struggling. Every day I'd come frustrated with a headache, and let's just say it was kind of rough. But then I thought, you know, and I'm not a very tall man. Over here, Mr. McKinney is a very tall man. So I told my principal, I said, you know what? I don't think I want to teach fourth graders anymore. I want to teach somebody that I'm taller than. So I started teaching the first graders, thinking that I was a little taller. Well, it turns out I had a first grader about, you know, almost my height. I was like, okay. But I tell you what, teaching first grade was the hardest and most heartfelt year of my life. Those little kids, they want to learn. And so I thought, I was like, wow. But then I discovered, no, it was just too hard. It required more skills than I actually had. Now, if I could go back, yeah, I could do it. And I'd do a great job after 26 years of being an educator. But, you know, back then, of course, I was barely in my second year. So, you know, it's tough to be a first grade and a fourth grade teacher. You really have to have the heart, patience to work with little ones. I mean, that's the tough part right there. Okay. Oh, I've got a question for Paula. Paula is asking, what's it like to teach art? Well, I taught art for 6 years, and since my background, my degree is in architecture, I thought that was a natural thing to teach, and I absolutely loved it. I left it because I don't know, at the time I had a principal who was kind of like asking me to teach a bunch of other things that I didn't want to teach, and I thought, you know what, I'm going back to school and get my master's. But teaching art is fabulous. I mean, there's so much you could do, and I worked with not just the drawing, but the painting, the ceramics. It was just a great job. I wouldn't mind going back one day and teach at a high school. And so I loved art. It was something I loved to do.
You want to write about that?
Okay, I've got another question that says, what are the benefits of being a performance music major, if you know any? I don't know too many, but a friend of mine's daughter is in orchestra in high school, and she is in the orchestra, and I know that the fine arts, it's an exciting career because if you get to be, you know, part of a symphony, you get to travel and perform at other parts. So it's an exciting career, but of course you have to be, you know, have an ear for music, and don't ask me to sing because I'll, you know, like I said, you know, I'll have like all those monitors off. But anyway, so as far as performance art, I think it's great. I think, you know, that nowadays we underestimate the benefit of the fine arts, the drawing, the painting, the music, the singing. I think all those things help, believe it or not, when you're with your math skills, for example. So I think a lot of people underestimate the importance of a fine arts background in anything. And I've got a question that says, what would we like to be a music major? I don't know too much about music per se. Like I said, it's just the little that I know was what I just mentioned.
Any advice on being a physical therapist?
Well, actually, yes. The physical therapy is another exciting career because there's so much potential. I know that when I was working in McAllen, one of my coworkers' husband was a trainer, athletic trainer, and he still works with the school district in McAllen, and he helps out students. So that's one potential career as being a physical trainer, therapist. As we get older, and people naturally get older, there's lots of opportunity. Now I know another thing that's popped up rather recently is sports medicine. And I know that there's this place right near where I live in McAllen called the Cavazos Institute of Sports Medicine. And so that's a popular thing because nowadays athletes are getting banged up and their knees and I mean the whole 9 yards. So I think there's a great need for physical therapists because of the nature of sports and how, you know, a lot of people are very active.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, I've got a great question. What inspired you to get your doctorate's degree? Asked by Ponce. Well, I'll tell you what. I mentioned earlier that it's never too late to go back to school. My own mother is an inspiration to myself. When I was in high school, just like you guys, my mother actually went back to school, and she was like 40 years old. And she's actually one of my inspirations. So it turned out that my sister went to college a year before I did, and I commuted with my mother to go to Pan Am. And so I think that's one thing that inspired me to get back into school and become a teacher. And then, like I said, I had an administrator that kept on, I don't know, I don't want to use a harassment, but I mean, kept on pushing me, and I'm like, I don't want to teach this. I don't want to do this. And like I said, if you joined me earlier, it's like, if you don't want to do something about it. And I jokingly say, every time I get angry, I get another degree. So, you know, how many degrees do I have now? Oh, I'm sorry, I don't have that many fingers. But anyway, so if you want to do something, if you're not happy about your situation, do something about it. Be proactive, do something about it, go back to school. And so when I first got my degree in architecture from Texas Tech, I just felt that I didn't get the good education that I thought. And I said to myself, you know what? I want to be a good teacher. I don't want to go through the experience. So that's really what inspired me to get my doctorate, is the fact that I wanted to do something about it, because I knew what it was like to be a student and to struggle in the architectural program. And so I felt, you know what? One day, even if it took me 20 years, I don't know how long it took. I can't do the math, right? 85, 2009. Even if it took me 1,000 years, I'd still go back and do it. So that's what inspired me to get my doctorates. Now, if you want to get your doctorates, be prepared, because typically it takes you 5 years to get that degree. I hope that answered the question. I've got a question. What school do you recommend for a student to be interested in architecture? Well, I applied here in the state of Texas because of in-state tuition, but there's lots of schools in architecture here. Typically, everywhere in the world except Texas A&M, it's a 5-year degree, and it's called a Bachelor's of Architecture. At Texas A&M, it's a Bachelor's of Environmental Science, and it's a 4-year degree. So really, Texas Tech, UT Austin, A&M, if you want to in-state tuition, all those are great schools of architecture. Now, the beauty of architecture today is everything can be 3D modeled. I mean, Google SketchUp. I don't know if anybody's heard of a program called Google SketchUp. It's free. You can download it. As a young man, when I was in college, I mean, all we did was construct models. We didn't have fancy computer programs that we could, draw something and then turn it around and look at it, or even do a walkthrough. But now, I mean, being an architectural major today is a lot easier because of programs that are free, like Google SketchUp. And so the technology has changed in the past 30 years that you can really you can learn architecture a lot easier than back then. So again, I think really all of the schools here in Texas are good schools. Okay, I've got another question. It says, which profession did you enjoy the most and why? I think teaching. I've stuck to teaching. This is, I think, 26 years in education. And I think the reason why I left architecture, because I felt that I wasn't making a difference. I was frustrated. At the time, it was a poor time in the economy. It was like you'd work late at night, and then the jobs would slow down, and I was worried. I just didn't want to jump from job to job. And I started substituting at night adults who needed to learn English. And I felt that I made a difference in their lives, and they were so eager to learn. And I just felt good about myself. And so really the career that I've enjoyed the most has been a classroom teacher, whether it's elementary or college or high school, or teaching adults at the service center here at Region 1. I think there's a niche for everybody. Everybody has their own individual strengths, and they need to go on the journey. And that's what life's about, is going on that journey and finding out, what are you good at? What do you enjoy? And so if you find that, I think that's the key to happiness. And so that's one of the careers that I think I've enjoyed the most, is being a professor and a teacher. And when did you realize you wanted to be a professor? Early on, when I started teaching like the first graders, and I thought, and I told them, one day I'm going to be your college professor. And lo and behold, I never had one until about 2 years ago. I was teaching undergrad, and there was David. And so I was like, I know you. Then again, I'm much older, and I have a little bit of gray hair here and there. But okay, I've got another one. I'm an architect and interior designer, and I've also taught at the university level. Now I'm an art teacher at the high school level, and absolutely love it. My students are enjoying your talk. Thank you. Our question to you is, do you feel that your real-world experiences helped inspire students more than you initially became a teacher? Definitely. I think the key to classroom teaching is making that connection to the real world. Sadly enough, when I was in the 5th grade, my math teacher was showing a lesson on fractions. And she had this little thing called a felt board. It's like material. And she was showing fractions. Ni papas. I mean, like, I didn't understand anything. I was so frustrated, and I was like, oops, did I end? I'm okay, right? All right. I didn't understand anything. And so, because as a little kid, I was not making a connection to what fractions were. Why is it important to know fractions? And I was like, we didn't talk about measuring cups or recipes or gasoline, the price, or sales tax, nothing. And so I think it's important to come from the business world to be a classroom teacher, because you can make those connections, those real world connections, the skills that you're learning today. And I'm glad to see that you have a teacher that was an architect and an interior designer. And so they can make those real world connections for you. And so I think it's so important that a classroom teacher, no matter what subject teaching, can relate to the real world and practical experiences. Another question is, do you know of any schools that offer a master's degree in interior design? I think Texas Tech does. When I was going through my program, I took an elective. That was the one class I think I made a C in, was interior designs. It was like, I was the only guy in the class, and I made a C. I don't know why. I guess I was a little distracted. Anyway, sorry. That was a bad joke. Okay, so next one is, do you have experiences in business? And if so, guidance would offer. Well, yes, I do have because architecture in itself is a business. Although I work for other people, it was all about customer service and meeting the needs of your client. And so in the classes that I teach now are the ed leadership classes. And our principals basically are accountable to the public and to their teachers. And so the business, a lot of the books that we use in my class and that we recommend to our students are business. There's a famous book, and if you have a chance, there's a book called Who Moved My Cheese? I don't know if anybody's heard of that book, but Who Moved My Cheese is all about change and adapting. So there's lots of business books that we use, from good to great. There's quite a few books on leadership that derive from the business world. So The 1 Minute Manager is another book that's on how to work with people. So there's quite a few books out there. Business and education are dovetailed. They go hand in hand, especially in ed leadership. Okay, next question is, do you recommend going to the military and going to college, or the other way around? Well, believe it or not, I wanted to do that, but my own mother was hesitant. When I graduated high school in 1979, there was no war. Vietnam had stopped in 1972, and I wanted to see the world, to be honest. But I think it's a good thing for a young person to go into the military, but expect to be, have lots of discipline. Expect to have to work as a team and to be in a tight unit. Expect long hours and physical activity. So military is not an easy, but it's to me, service to the country is really important. And these days, we have lots of dangerous things happening all around the world, not just in Paris, but here in your own backyard. Today on the radio, I heard that some Syrians they caught some Syrians on the border, not too far from here, in Brownsville, in fact. And so the military is an honorable place to start, and it will provide you an opportunity to get a scholarship, or they used to have the Hazelwood Act, which pays for college. My father was in the military. He was in the Air Force in the 1950s. So yeah, I highly recommend it to any young person. But again, expect, having a rigid routine and a lot of physical activity. So you need to be physically fit. Next question is, would you recommend a field of mechanical engineering? Edgar, yes, if you, number one, you need to be really good in mathematics or like it. Because when I was going to school, the highest class I took in architecture was a class in trigonometry, and I got an A. But once I got to calculus, pre-calculus, I was doing very poorly in there. So I think you need to be taking as many classes now in high school in mathematics, higher mathematics, like pre-calculus and calculus, and then you can decide, is mechanical engineering good for you? And of course, you need to like to do things with your hands. As a little boy, I loved to find out what things worked. My only problem was I couldn't put them back together. So mechanical engineering was not my career. Okay, somebody loved a book that I recommended. Here's another question. I would like to pursue law career. What do I do? Noah. Well, the law is also admirable profession. Believe it or not, in Texas Tech, there's a law school there also. The law is kind of tricky because I actually teach public school law, and that deals with education law. One of the things I tell my students the first lecture is that I have a love-hate relationship with the law, and that is I love to hate it. Just kidding. What happened with the law is like science. If you have a chemical equation, it's not going to change whether you're here on Earth or on Mars. It's gonna stay the same. It's physical. Gravity, F equals ma. Force equals mass times acceleration. Surprised I know that, right? Anyway, it always change. It's always the same. But law is an artificial, or I say, a man-made construct, and so it's always changing. 1 minute it's illegal to smoke marijuana in Colorado. Next minute it's legal to smoke marijuana, and don't do it though. In Colorado, I mean, people change. It's like the law changes so much, and so you have to love that things changing to be in the law. The other thing too is you need to be good at arguing and logic. So I highly recommend that you read a lot of literature, a lot of textbooks, novels, and also that you join a debate club if you're interested in that. So I don't know who, Noah. I don't know if Noah's out there right now, but I highly recommend that you do a lot of reading, especially in debate, and join the debate. Somebody wants to know about being a veterinarian. That's a wonderful career. I had a dog that I had to put to sleep, and it just broke my heart. But animals, I mean, my God, I mean, sometimes I thought my little kids were animals, but I mean, I kind of was a veterinarian too. But no, seriously, that's a fantastic career. And again, to be a veterinarian, you really have to know your biology, because think about it. A dog's anatomy is different than a cow's anatomy. There's different systems and organs and all that. And so I think a love of science is really important to be a veterinarian. And of course, if you have any pets, to start learning about, being a veterinarian by taking your dog or cat to the veterinarian. So I think that's a great career as well. What would you recommend doing basics in the Valley and transferring to a different university? Yes. I started off here at Pan American University and then transferred a year and a half later to Texas Tech. And that's the thing. Before you transfer, you look at your 2 college catalogs and you compare which classes will transfer. So before you enroll in any kind of thing, obviously the basics will transfer. Nowadays, a lot of you have already gotten your English and your histories already in high school. So yes, I think it's a good thing to transfer. It takes you a little longer, but I think it's a great thing to transfer. Going outside the valley is a good opportunity because you get to learn about different people and different cultures. But I think if you have the opportunity, I mean, I would recommend that. What's the hardest part of going to college? The hardest part is having discipline. When I was here taking classes at Pan American, I lived with my parents, and a friend of mine started off college and lived at the dorms at UT Austin. He wasn't disciplined, and he wasted a lot of time, and what happened is he just ended up failing most or not all the classes. And then we traded places. He moved down back to the valley, and I went up to Texas Tech in Lubbock, and I lived in the dorm, but I knew that my father was paying for my tuition, and that it was hard for them to sacrifice and put me through college. And so I did not work at the same time I went to college. So I think, again, the hardest part of any kind of college experience is dedication, knowing that you're there for a reason. And I mean, yeah, you can have some fun, but keeping it to a minimum. I mean, the thing is, learning is a fun in itself. It's a great opportunity to meet other people and to learn about others. Here at UTRGV, we've merged with kids from Brownsville, Edinburgh, Rio Grande City. So there's lots of other people now that are, like I said, it's a huge institution. Another question. Can you say anything about aerospace engineering? Honestly, I don't know too much about aerospace and engineering, but I do know that in Brownsville that they're starting to develop a spaceport. And so there'll be, it's a private, I forgot the name of the SpaceX, and they're going to be doing a lot of stuff at Boca Chica, I believe. Yeah, and so that's something that definitely you could look into. If you wanted to own your own business, what would you have to do? Okay, to own your own business, I think first and foremost is to work in a small business. And the reason why I say a small business is because you get to do every type of job. You're in the front counter, you're in the stock room, you're in the receiving, delivery, you're handling the money, and you know everything. And when you know everything, then you get the big picture. And so to be a successful business owner, you need to be very multi-talented and know about the different types of jobs that a business does. But I think it's a great thing to be your own boss, but don't expect to have 8 to 5 job. I mean, business is long hours. It's long hours. Question, let's see. Well, let's see. What would you recommend for public relations? Oh, okay. So the question is, what would you recommend for a student interested in public relations? That's a tough one because I think you need to be, you can't be shy. You need to be able to speak. And I mentioned somebody who was interested in the law to know, to read different novels and literature. You'd be surprised how many lessons that we can learn from books and literature. For example, Star Wars. I don't know if anybody's looking forward to seeing Star Wars on December the 18th, coming to a local theater near you and me. But Star Wars is actually based off of mythology. I don't know if y'all remember that stuff, mythology that puts your stuff to sleep or whatever, but it's exciting stuff. You have Princess Leia and so forth. And anyway, so reading about, literature, able to talk to people, to present, just doing what I'm doing right now, is important. Not to be shy. So public relations is being in front and center. So I think that's something that you need to explore. And certainly it's the language arts is something that you might want to major in, like English, theater, drama. Those are things that you might want to consider if you're interested in public relations. And that's Nayla. I don't know what, she's from Sierra, I think.
Yeah,
school. Okay. Okay, I've got an interesting question here. This is, what do you know of the mortician program at Texas Tech or any college? So one thing about mortician, I know that people are dying to get into the place. Just kidding, that was a bad joke. Okay, I don't know too much, but I actually have a friend and colleague who went and was a mortician I don't know if he went to Texas Tech, so I don't know too much about the mortician program. Honestly, it's kind of like I get the heebie-jeebies. I jokingly say I'm not going to attend my own funeral, so I'm like, oh, I don't know what to tell you about the mortician program. But I don't know. There's something to find out about, I guess. But I'll tell you what, if you're dealing with the morticians, you need to have a sense of anatomy and physiology, science. You have to have an interest in that. Also a degree, in psychology, lots of classes in that. But my apologies, I don't know too much about that. Next question is, what college would you say would be the best for criminal justice? Well, I've met a few people here that have gotten their criminal justice degree here at, it used to be the Edinburgh campus. So here at UTRGV would be a great place to start. And I said, what would be a requirement to internship somewhere in high school? I'm not sure. Oh, what was my score on the SAT? Geez, I don't know. But I can tell you one thing. When I graduated from Mac High, class of 79, there was 800 students, and I was number 42 out of 800. So I don't know if that tells you anything or not. Okay.
You're gonna introduce Ray.
Okay, I've got professor here coming on board right here, Dr. Rey Ramirez from the Brownsville campus. I don't know how to. You want to mute my mic here? Or?
He could, you there, unmute.
Dr. Ramirez, do you hear us?
Let me unmute the mic. I'm here. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay, sounds good. How y'all doing?
Okay. We've been, I don't know, you just joined us, Dr. Ramirez, but they've been asking some great questions about different careers. I know that you have a background in science. Dr. Obdigo has mentioned that he worked with you in the past in science. I don't know if you want to talk to them about being a science teacher or science as a career, or if you want to.
Well, first I got to say you did a great job with all the science questions.
Well, thank you, but I'm sure you can fill in the gaps.
I just got in because I was out there photographing and looking at all of the wind power generators all the way from Raymondville all the way to Laguna Vista. And they're all over both Willacy and Cameron County. I don't know if y'all have any toward Hidalgo County, but there's probably a lot going out there, and just trying to figure out which ones are actually sending power and knowing where the power grids are, and working with I was being accompanied by a lawyer and an engineer. And the engineer was a chemical engineer. And one very interesting story in terms of careers was that the engineer was basically a chemical engineer, but he worked with banks. And when he worked with, even though it's chemistry and engineering, he would go to different countries and look and study their performance and building of different projects that were being done all over the world. In fact, he just actually retired in 2009, and he figured that he would retire since he became a Million Mile Club member, which meant he traveled for over 1 million miles all over the world, doing chemical engineering for banks. Because apparently a bank will give you a loan, but then they have to figure out whether they're going to give you more money to do different things. So he would go to a particular country. They would lay the foundation for a plant, and then they'd say, well, we want the walls now, and he would then do the study and send a report, and then they'd send the money for that. So it's very interesting that a chemical engineer would actually be involved in banking and business. So what you had talked about earlier about, you know, knowing things from the ground up is a very good idea. The lawyer, in terms of a science project, they built these transmissions, and apparently the transmission, when they put it together, has a little key that goes inside. And what they did was they figured out that the key wasn't right, and they were having some problems with models 6 and 7. Of course, models 1 through 5, they were already out there, and they had had a few accidents. And so he basically had an engineer working with him to he learned more engineering from that engineer, even though he was a lawyer. But what happened was that they fixed engines 6 and 7, but they didn't fix 1 through 5. An accident happened, and then he wound up, trying to figure out how they were going to protect the company from lawsuits and so on for that. Of course, basically you can't protect the company from negligence like that. So just to soften the blow. But it's very interesting that science is so connected to all sorts of different types of things. So it looks like the bell rang right now for class. So I hope I gave you all something for the people that were there. Okay.
Some of the other classes may not have a bell schedule. It might be different.
Oh, okay.
Find out. I was just Seatta's class in Brownsville Veterans, because earlier we had 2 different Brownsville Veterans bells. Like one class stayed with us, the algebra 2.
Okay, well, you all tell me when to stop. What basically I was saying was, in science, it's not just, learning about the principles of nature, whether it be physical science, earth science, space science, and so on. It's also the application of all of these. You mentioned mathematics. And mathematics is basically a very fundamental part of science. You really can't do high-level science without that, including whether it be interior design or engineering or anything like that. So San Benito, I guess your bell rang, so good luck to you all. And so what basically happens is that you have to not only know the science, but you have to know the mathematics. And one of the conversations that we had was that we basically looked at, we have to be able not only to know the science and the mathematics, but the reading and the writing. It's very, very important, because us as scientists have to sometimes write proposals to get funding in order for us to get more money to be able to do the projects. People don't give you money just like that without having a good rationale as to why a project needs to be begun. And so being able to articulate it in writing is very, very important for everyone. And of course, you can't write until you read. And I'm glad that you all mentioned several books. I'm very fond of, who stole my cheese, okay? Other great ones are things like Outliers. I have an unstable internet connection here, so I hope you all can hear me. But Outliers talks about deliberate practice, and that is that you can have a career for 20 or 30 years, But in order to really get good at your career, you have to understand what your weaknesses are and never be afraid of your weaknesses. If your weakness happens to be mathematics, then at least you know that that's one of the things that you're going to have to work on, and then you're going to have to work very, very carefully on getting better at those areas of weaknesses. I always thought I was a great writer. I don't think I had in high school a grade lower than a 93 in English. It was just, I had one of the best English teachers I think anyone could ever have. My first grade in Comp 1 in college was an F. Okay. So that, ouch. And boy, let me tell you about self-confidence. You talked about having discipline and self-confidence, okay? It definitely is very important for you to understand that if you are weak in something, you should be so glad that you found out what your weakness is, because then all you have to do is continue to work on it. And one of the things in outliers is you don't really get good till you put in the time and focus in on your weaknesses so that you can get better and better. I mean, that's a truth with, if you're talking about, if you're a football player, a basketball player, or if you're a writer, or if you're a dancer. You know that you have weaknesses, and you work on those weaknesses to make improvements in yourself. And don't ever be discouraged by the fact that you failed. We have some great scientists and inventors in our world that have always said that, and I don't know if you all know who it is. I'll just say the phrase and let you all tell me who this person was, but basically said that, genius is 99% perspiration and only 1% inspiration. Anybody remember who that was?
Albert Einstein.
No, Thomas Edison. And if you can think of Thomas Edison, look at how many different things he invented, right? And the thing is that he knew himself that he had to fail, 99 times out of 100 in order to get that one thing to right. Somebody's asking here if I would recommend UTRGV. Of course I would recommend UTRGV, but if it has the program that fits your career goals. You have to, first of all, establish your career goals and decide what it is that you're going to be doing. I think all of us can probably say we started off with a particular career, and then it doesn't always work out that way. I mean, my background was in wildlife management, and I love wildlife management, and I know a lot about it. But that's not the career that I finally went into. I got into science education, and I love teaching. I love to do the different things that I needed to do. But I know that if I really wanted to get into wildlife management and make it through at the very beginning, I would have needed to have gone to a school that really focused on wildlife management to be at the top tier. Eventually, I was offered a job in wildlife management as a assistant refuge manager in North Carolina, but I didn't take the job. And you know what? I was already teaching about 3 years, and I loved what I was doing. So sometimes things hit you, and when you graduate from college, most of the time you end off with 25 to let's say 35 hours of your coursework in your discipline. I wound up leaving my bachelor's with 54 hours in biology. I was very well prepared. I have a doctorate in education, but yet I have 21 hours in science content, in biology. That's because I love the science and I love the life science. And I think it's very important for you to choose your profession, based on your thoughts. You're asking what are the favorite parts of being a professor overall? And I think it is the fact that we get an opportunity to develop curriculum that makes a difference. And when we have students, our students are adults and they're paying for it. And if they don't like what we are providing for them, they let us know. And it's so great to go down the street or go to a store and so on, or to a function and meet a student that we've had, whether it be in public school, private school, or at the university, and they say, wow, we really enjoyed your classes and you were great. Well, what's not good about that? That is really something that I think we all would say that's our favorite part. Our favorite part is the fact that we contributed something that others enjoyed and could make something of their life. So in other words, what we covered, even though it was our discipline and we shared it with them, it became part of what they were doing in their career. And it's really satisfying for all of us to know that we're appreciated by others. So I guess that's what I would answer as far as that's concerned.
Awesome. You want to share, Dr. Garcia?
Well, my favorite part is just like what Dr. Ramirez has been talking about, is the fact that making a difference in the lives of others. But another thing too is learning from my students. My students are teachers, and some of them may already be administrators as well. And so hearing from them what's actually going on in their classrooms and their campuses, so learning from them, I think, is one of my favorite parts too. So it's not just I'm teaching them, but they're also teaching me. They're sharing with each other as well what they're going through. And so it's a big kind of discussion. The classroom discussions become very exciting. And sometimes we go over a little bit and get excited. But I think that's one thing that I like is the fact that we get to learn from each other as well. Something about being go Bobcats or what? I was like, okay. It's like, what does that say? Something about Edinburgh. What was my? I was an administrator in Edinburgh. I didn't teach in Edinburgh. I've taught in McAllen. So the students that I taught were in McAllen, but I worked in Edinburgh as an administrator, and I also worked in Mission and here at the Service Center at Region 1. I've worked in different places. So sorry, I didn't really formally teach in Edinburgh other than Pan Am, the Edinburgh campus of the university.
Well, I know we lost some classes, and we've actually gone a little over because we wanted to give Dr. Ramirez, plenty of time.
Yeah, we'll trade places.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
All right. Welcome back once again, Chris McKinney. I'm going to kind of wrap things up. Dr. Ramirez, thank you very much for taking time out of your day, and I hope you didn't rush back from the windmills. Don Quixote, you have a new nickname now.
Thank you very much, Chris.
I appreciate you participating and sharing your wisdom and your experiences. And thank you, students from Brownsville and San Benito and others. Just can't thank you enough. I'm taping all these sessions. I've recorded them. And again, I will share these links with your Garrett facilitator so they can then give them to the teachers as well. And maybe for students that could not make any of these sessions, they can catch up on the information and see that it's valuable and learn from it. But we're going to sign off. This will do it for the fall. I wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving and a Merry Christmas as we move into the holiday season. We'll have another event in January, and the topic will be writing essays for college applications. And then in February, it's for the scholarship application essays. And like I said earlier, we're going to wrap up with criminal justice in May and talk about criminology, as that's another interest among our students here in Gear Up schools through all the surveys they've taken and so forth. So we're signing out here in Edinburgh. Thanks again for your participation. And I'm going to stop recording. You'll have a great day.